Let me show an example of how the U.S. media is whitewashing this. So first of all, here's an Israeli official commenting on what happened. Israeli Major General Nimrod Sheffer. Hamas signed with Israel via mediators or not via mediators, doesn't matter, an agreement to return the hostages in two stages. The first stage was implemented. Israel violated the second stage. We violated. It wasn't that Hamas wasn't prepared to proceed. We didn't enter into talks about the second stage. So that's an Israeli major general. Okay. This is how the New York Times describes what happened. Israel's strikes followed weeks of fruitless negotiations to agree on an extension to its truce with Hamas. So there were these talks, it didn't work out. So, oh, well, we have to have war again. Not Israel blocked the talks from proceeding, blocked the ceasefire that they had agreed to with the U.S. brokering that agreement from proceeding. So that's how U.S. media, especially the New York Times, is typically providing cover to Israel blowing up the ceasefire and proceeding with mass murder.
Yeah, I mean, it's the New York Times, the BBC. None of them will just say outright, Israel broke the ceasefire. Unilaterally broke the ceasefire. And this all followed an attempt by the U.S. to directly negotiate for the release of captives in Gaza like Idan Alexander, who were dual Israeli-U.S. citizens, because they knew Netanyahu didn't actually want to follow through on the ceasefire deal.
And this comes, Israel resumed its mass murder, its full-scale mass murder in Gaza. Of course, it's been bombing, sporadically, even during the ceasefire. But this full-scale mass murder, it was launched just about 8 or 9 days after Trump's hostage envoy reported real progress in his talks with Hamas. And he expressed confidence not only in a deal that would see all the remaining captives released, but in fact, a long-term truce with Hamas.
And I think you could see something like a long-term truce where we forgive prisoners, where Hamas lays down their arms, where they agree they're not part of the political party going forward. I think that's a reality. It's real close.
So, and in the same interview, that's where he also said that even though Israel's upset that he's talking to Hamas, he said the U.S. is not an agent of Israel. And therefore, right after he said that, Israel and the lobby freaked out and got him fired. But let's play that comment, just because this is what basically got the U.S. envoy, hostage envoy, who was reporting significant progress in this talks with Hamas. This is what got him fired.
Understand why Netanyahu, Dermer, others might be upset.
I do understand. I spoke with Ron, and I'm sympathetic. He has someone that he doesn't know well, making direct contact with Hamas. Maybe I would see them and say, look, they don't have horns growing out of their head. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. So he doesn't know me, and there are big stakes. He lives in a country where if it sets certain precedents, then it will hurt or help a lot of other people. So I understand the consternation and the concern, and I wasn't upset. At the same time, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play.
Understand.
Well, we are an agent of Israel, and because he said otherwise, he got fired by Trump.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever going to be a deal where Hamas gave up their arms. Hamas certainly would agree to leave power. That was the decision made on October 7th, 2023. They didn't want to continue ruling an occupied, besieged entity and provide municipal services that turn it into an occupation subcontractor like the Palestinian Authority. So definitely Hamas would agree to a unity government there, but Israel will never allow a unity government with representation from all Palestinian factions. They want to pick and choose and divide and conquer. And no Palestinian territory under Israeli control is allowed to have any armed activity that isn't solely directed at Palestinians. The image that I chose for this live stream shows Netanyahu posing in Tulkarm, where the Israeli military and in the northern West Bank is conducting combat operations to crush a burgeoning resistance there, except Netanyahu standing in front of a green screen. It's an image as fake as the settler state he represents. But the point is, Netanyahu is stamping out all resistance, and that's why that's his agenda. He will stamp out even the Shin Bet director, Ronan Bar, and suspend all illusions of democracy inside the Jewish state in order for him to achieve total victory. Ronan Bar, by the way, the Shin Bet director, was investigating several Netanyahu associates for taking payoffs on the low from Qatar, which is a huge scandal inside Israel. But
And wasn't there also a probe of some doctoring of some phone records from October 7th?
Yes.
Where basically, people close to Netanyahu, I'm forgetting the details, you have to fill it in, but basically accused of doctoring phone records that just speak to, their actions on October 7th in terms of heeding warnings and ordering a military response.
That they got caught with their pants down. And,
yeah,
there's been tons of doctoring, the doctoring over, fake plans by Sinwar to escape through the Philadelphia corridor to justify Israel maintaining that. Netanyahu's people did that. But he's getting rid of the Shin Bet director, the head of the General Security Services. It's a huge deal. The what's left of the Zionist liberals, the kind of opponents of Netanyahu, believe they're like living in the Weimar Republic, and that Netanyahu has just completely suspended all order, and they don't have a constitution. But Netanyahu's justification before his base is this is what needs to be done to get to total victory. And he tweeted that he's under attack by a leftist deep state, echoing Trump. So the state of emergency that's been imposed all throughout occupied territory can always crept into Israeli society, but now it's just so open that no one can deny it. Netanyahu is extending his control, and Ben Gvir and Smotrich have control over him. Ben Gvir has turned the Israeli police into like a private militia for the fascist settlers. It can't even pretend to be a police force that enforces the rule of law anymore. It's the same police force, by the way, that abused our reporter Jeremy Lafredo when he was jailed there under false pretenses, under false charges. But the slaughter continues in Gaza. There's no end in sight. Israel has no interest in abiding by any ceasefire, and there's no entity, no country that backs Israel that's applying any brakes here, that's holding it accountable. It has total impunity to do whatever it wants in the Gaza Strip. Where will this lead? Where's that flyer that was dropped in Gaza several weeks ago?
Yeah, I'll get that.
I got it. This was actually dropped by the Shin Bet. This is a Shin Bet flyer. It wasn't Army. To the people of Gaza, after what happened in the end, and it has a picture of Trump and Netanyahu. It's in Arabic. To the people of Gaza, after what happened in the end of the temporary ceasefire and before we start Trump's compulsory plan, which we will proceed with whether you like it or not, this is the last call for anyone who may share information with us in return for financial support. In other words, we're going to kill you if you don't snitch and tell us where the captives are. Reconsider this. The world map will not change if Gaza's people disappear. No one will notice you. No one will ask about you. Neither America nor Europe cares about Gaza. Even the Arab states. They are our allies. They provide us with money, oil, and arms. They only send you shrouds. The game will end soon. And leaving aside the sheer evil that was produced, by the way, by Netanyahu's supposed opponents of the gatekeepers in the Shin Bet, leaving aside the Satanism that led to that, the last lines are true. The government of the US, the EU, they don't care about the people of Gaza, and nor do the Arab states, who only send them shrouds, like blankets, and they give Israel whatever they want. Same should be said about Erdogan in Turkey, who's clinging to political and as well as physical life. They talk tough, but they don't do anything. For the
You have a
people
great
of Gaza.
you have a great term for the Arab states that take part in enabling Israeli aggression on Gaza.
Oh yeah, well, it was reported that many attacks by the U.S. have been carried out through Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base as well as the UAE. So I call them the axis of assistance. There's an axis of resistance and there's the axis of assistance. And I don't care what is said on Al Jazeera. It's like, yeah.
I want to talk for a bit about the U.S. role here, because recall that it was a major achievement of Trump and his top Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, to broker the initial ceasefire deal, which they've now decided to blow up. And Steve Witkoff was taking part in talks with Hamas throughout this whole process through last week. And he said something last Sunday on CNN that I thought was really interesting. He was talking about how basically he was issuing a new bridge proposal to Hamas. And he said that Hamas's response to him to extend the ceasefire was unacceptable. But note how here he doesn't say what was so unacceptable about Hamas's response. He declines to specify what was so unacceptable about Hamas's response to his proposals.
The Hamas proposal is a non-starter, Jake. I spent, along with Senior Policy Director Eric Traeger from Mike Waltz's office, I spent close to 7.5 hours at the Arab Summit. We had really positive conversation there. I would describe it as game-changing, but for Hamas's response. So we spent a good deal of time talking about a bridge proposal that would see the release of 5 live hostages that included Idan Alexander, and also, by the way, see the release of a substantial amount of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails, which would be a wonderful thing for these Palestinian families. And I thought the proposal was compelling. The Israelis were informed about it and advised about it beforehand. And after waiting for 2 or 3 days from Hamas, which is their usual mode, we got an unacceptable response. I'm not going to go into the specific details of what made it unacceptable, but it was totally unacceptable. I think there's an opportunity for them, but the opportunity is closing fast. What happened with the Houthis yesterday, what happened with our strike ought to inform as to where we stand with regard to terrorism and our tolerance level for terrorist actions. And I would encourage Hamas to get much more sensible than how they have been.
So just notice how he goes out of his way to say, I'm not going to specify what was so unacceptable about Hamas's response to his own proposal. So I can only speculate here, but my speculation is that Hamas said, we'll accept anything, but we just want a permanent ceasefire. We want guarantees Israel's not going to keep attacking Gaza. And I don't know. Again, I'm speculating. I don't know actually what it was, but my guess is that Witkoff said, no, that's unacceptable. We want to, we insist on Israel's self-professed right to bomb Gaza at will. And I wonder if that's what blew up the talks.
Well, obviously, like if you're working out a ceasefire in 3 phases, and they're it's agreed upon, the more powerful entity with the most firepower is going to seek to bend them, especially when it has total control over the broker. The U.S. has never been an honest broker. This is what Israel's always done with every single agreement that it's ever made with any Palestinian faction. So it would stand to reason that Hamas just demanded a faithful follow through on the terms. And that's what they're saying in public. And they're accusing NSC director Mike Waltz of lying for saying the same thing, that Israel has a right to defend itself, and that Hamas, refused a very generous offer. But you can't just make a deal and then make a counter and then make a separate offer and try to alter the terms of the deal. It's why Iran is not going to negotiate at this point with the Trump administration. over its nuclear program because Trump shattered the JCPOA and showed that the US's word is not good. It's what we were talking about at the top of this stream. The Trump administration came in and ended TPS and screwed over all these Venezuelans. It's like a new administration comes in and completely changes course on a policy. So what is the point in dealing with it as a foreign government? There is really no point. And what is Trump telling Iran? We will attack you and do what we're doing to Gaza and to Yemen if you don't agree with our deal, which we will not follow anyway. Iran is powerful enough to at least say, okay, well, do your worst. The factions in Gaza have the only leverage they have is these captives. So they're not just going to give them up in exchange for nothing. They need to get to phase 2. But I mean, just when the ceasefire deal was first signed, like hours after it was signed, I asked them Gaza's sources, like, do you think this will hold? And none of them believed it would get to phase 2 just because of what they know about Israel. So here we are.
One point I wanted to add about what we talked about earlier. Israel today, as we're recording this, blowing up the Turkish Friendship Hospital, the only hospital in Gaza for the treatment of cancer patients. Israel had been occupying that hospital, using it as a military base. And so now they blow it up. So what's the argument there? That like this is being used by Hamas, so we have to blow it up, even though we've been occupying it for months and months and months. It just, again, speaks to how unbelievably off the chart sadistic this regime is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Dahiya doctrine, to attack the civilian population in order to get the resistance faction, the leadership, to bend to its will. That's what Israel Katz said when he threatened the residents of Gaza. So we're going to continue to just see slaughter of the civilians in Gaza. The U.S. media is not very interested in covering it. Western media is not showing the sheer scale of horror that's unfolding in Gaza. And the Trump administration has given a full green light. Man, I should have had this in our show notes, but there's a new YouGov poll out that kind of shows you where Trump's base is on this, on just the whole question of Palestine. Because with Biden in office, you had a base that was not with the Biden policy on Israel-Palestine. You had a substantial portion of, now I would say a majority of Democratic voters wanted a ceasefire within just a few weeks of the slaughter in Gaza. The Republican base is totally different. They see Israel as like what? Like that a thin Jew line against the Islamic hordes. That's kind of how they see it. And no amount of slaughter in Gaza can change them. There's a remarkable poll out by YouGov that I was mentioning on whether they asked Democrats and Republicans, do you support people's right to protest? Just generally.
And have your tweet up there, Max.
Oh, you got it up?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I was scrolling for it, which is probably why I was talking so slow. Just generally, do you support the right to protest? And over 75% of Republicans and Democrats support people's right to protest against the government, like higher numbers than that. But 23% of Republicans think that protests against Israel's actions in Gaza should be criminalized and people who protest should be sent to jail. And less than 50%, well less than 50%, believe they should be legal. You have 35% declaring that they're not sure. So that's where Trump's base is at. And this is, you know, the part of the base that watches Fox News and listens to like Dan Bongino on the radio. Now he's the FBI director, deputy director, because of his great qualifications. And they are just told that these are terrorist protests. They're gay terrorist, queer, Islamo-Maoist protests that want to slaughter Jews in the streets. And so they think they should be banned. And
who had, I think, some moral high ground because they were the targets of state censorship, with all that happened during Russiagate, the Hunter Biden laptop, and they also were the targets of a smear campaign, being defamed as foreign agents because of all the Trump Russia lies. And the go ahead once they retake power and do adopt policies that are even more censorious. I mean, the Democrats never tried to deport any foreign students who were advocating peace with Russia, right? But now they're trying to deport foreigners who oppose genocide in Gaza. And
Well,
they're
the
trying to-
Democrats did target Scott Ritter, who is an American citizen.
Oh, that's true. Okay, fair enough. You're right. Fair enough. That's true. You're right. You're right. And he because he wrote some articles for some Russian outlets. So yes, you're right. Fair enough.
I mean, it was completely a political persecution, and they took all of his files that he had from his days as a UN peacekeeper.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So certainly this is I think a new level of persecution.
it was a
because now-
thorough investigation, and the difference is they charged Scott, or seemed to be. They said they're investigating him for something. They're still holding his passport, which is crazy.
They haven't charged him, and they're not. I don't think they're going to, because what are they going to target him for for writing articles for Sputnik? But
Yeah.
So certainly, you're right. Basically, Trump has taken that playbook, and I think put it on steroids, because now trying to deport people, cutting off university funding, and it's too bad because they had a lot of understandable outrage about the censorship and defamation that was directed at them.